Men of Reddit, what's the most creepiest thing a woman has ever done to you? Cut off all of her pubes, put them in between layers of scotch tape, crammed them in an envelope with a pair of her used panties and put the envelope under my windshield wiper. There was a note. Read something like, "I know we can't be together, but now you'll always remember me." She was right. Oh frick dude. You just gave me a PTSD flashback. A girl did this to me before. What the actual crap? When I was like 17, I had it completely blocked from my memory. It just came flooding back. The cut off pubes with scotch tape. I do not want to remember this. I had an ex-girlfriend stalk me for 5 years. I had a restraining order against her that included my grandparents. She had been bothering them and my parents, but I didn't think to include my sister because she lived in a different city. This woman stalked my sister and ended up approaching her at a music festival. She was wearing, this is so insane, one of those hats that has fake dreadlocks attached to it, and she was trying to pretend to be a stranger and get information from my sister. Now, keep in mind 1. She was white as frick. 2. That was the only thing she did to disguise herself. And 3. My sister fricking knew her already. It would be hilarious if not for the years of harassment and inconvenience she caused me. Every time I would move, she would send me something in the mail to let me know she had my address. One time it was a box with a flannel shirt, a half-empty bottle of cologne, a broken toy axe, a bundle of pubic hair, and an 11-page letter written in crayon. Frick, she was crazy. Probably not as exciting as most here, but still super freaking weird. I was staying at my friend's house, sleeping in his guest room. Friend is at work, his girlfriend is at home. One thing about this room is that it has a very heavy door that has to be held open by something super heavy or else it slams shut. While I sleep with the door closed, I wake up in the morning and as I do every morning, I laid there for a bit longer before actually getting out of bed. Well, this time all of a sudden I see the door open. The light is still off, but the hallway light being on means I can see if someone's standing in the doorway. I have my eyes kind of open and I can see that she's just standing there in the doorway, staring at me. I didn't move. I wanted to see WTF would happen because this was thoroughly freaking me out. She just stood there for at least 10 minutes. Didn't look away. Didn't walk around the room. I was laying at a weird angle where I could see her perfectly. She could see me, but she couldn't see that my eyes were half open. I thought she may have been in there to grab something because there's a bunch of stuff in the closet, clothes and such. Nope. 10 minutes I waited for her to do something or to walk out. Finally I flinched and feigned waking up and I heard her run out and the door slam. I got up, went into the kitchen and she was as bubbly as could be, acting like nothing happened, acting like she didn't just spend 10 minutes watching me sleep. I fell asleep sitting next to one of my friends on the way home from a school field trip in 12th grade. I woke up to her using my hand to play with herself. As I began to regain consciousness, she threw my hand at me and made a huge scene about it. I never talked to her about it. It bothers me to this day. Definitely top 3. Me and a friend, both about 12 at the time, had a car with 3 women in pull up and tried to get us to go with them for a good time. The woman who got out the car was flashing her boobs and rubbing herself. It was just surreal. We both just noped the frick out. I'll never forget a girl in the backseat flashing her boobs as they drove off. Looking back, it feels more sinister than it did at the time. A car filled with pedophiles is pretty sinister indeed. Girl I had seen for 2 dates had her best friend SMS me anonymously claiming we met in a bar the night before and offering to come over to my place. I rarely went to bars as I worked night shift at the time, so I knew I hadn't met anyone at a bar. Eventually, after probing and pushing, I got the girl to confess. She said she was just testing to make sure I was trustworthy. Didn't see her again. Met a girl at a bar and we ended up back at her place. We hooked up and fell asleep. She seemed normal all night, and I saw no red flags at all. I definitely would have dated her again, until she went crazy. I woke up around 5 AM and started getting dressed to leave. I had to get home and get ready for work. She woke up while I was dressing and totally freaked out. She was screaming, "Angrily, you can't leave." I explained I needed to go to work, and that I'd call her later. She was having none of that. Then she attacked. I literally had to physically fight my way out of her apartment, with a few scratches on my arm for souvenirs. I have no idea what her deal was, and I never went back to the bar I met her in. A girl broke into my house 3 times in a week while I was rehearsing Cellist. Each time she left money to repair the window, a large bag of Twizzlers, and 2 cans of tuna for my cat. That was it. We had never been romantically or physically involved. We barely even knew each other. Really drunk chick asked me to dance and proceeded to keep trying to pull my dong out, like, forcefully. When it finally resisted enough, she called me a nerd and stormed off. I was probably 9. It was after church service and there's this new lady there who took a liking to me. She was the new wife of the minister. We were outside waiting for the grown-ups to come out. I think they were having a meeting inside, and this new lady took me to a bench nearby. We sat, asked me lots of questions. Then she put my head on her lap, stroked my hair while humming a lullaby like I'm a baby. It felt really uncomfortable and I really wanted to escape, but I was a shy little boy and didn't want to offend her or something. Saw my sister from afar snickering at us. It went on for like 30 minutes but felt like hours. I was dying with cringe inside. Very, very strange. Makes me think she had a son a similar age who died or something. I met this girl when I was out one night. She was nice, seemed normal. Went to her house and there was pictures of me around her mirror. I would probably asked her for a pen and signed my picture. What a fan. Blind date. Talk was okay over dinner, except that she kept mentioning her dachshund. She had sweaters for it, a separate purse-like bag to carry it, etc. Then she looked at me and said, "I really like my dog." I said I gathered that. She looked at me very starkly and said, "I don't think you understand. I really like my dog." I paid for the food, wished her well and we went our separate ways. Maybe that was her way of ending the date. I don't know, but I didn't need to know, either. She wasn't ending it, she was easing you into a threesome. I remember in middle school there was this one girl who would grope my thighs and such, and just generally making and wanted physical contact. The worst part was that she would make sure to do it in public and people would make fun of me for how her advances made me uncomfortable. Oh yeah, look how unwanted physical contact is funny when it's a girl towards a guy, haha. I am really sorry, mate. My ex was banned at a party. She tried making moves on my younger sister, who was only 15 at the time. Ex was 17, and touching her without permission. I got angry and told her to stop, and so the party ended soon after that. A week later, not only did she not apologize, she tried to organize a meetup involving both me and my sister along with a few friends. So I told her I don't want her near me or my sister again. This made her so angry she called me on the phone and told me she had a knife and if I keep acting this way she'll use it. She also said she was on the way to my house right now. I was freaking the frick out at this point, but I was hoping she was just bluffing. However, sure enough, 20 minutes later she arrived right outside my door. I texted her saying I wasn't going to let her in, but she kept ringing the doorbell constantly. I texted her again and again to go away before eventually saying after a few minutes that I would call the cops if she didn't leave right now. This finally got her to leave. Luckily, I haven't seen her since. For future reference, if somebody tells you they have a knife, they are going to use it and they're on their way to your house, you should be calling the police already. There's no need to wait until they arrive, and there's no need to worry about whether it's true or not. I dumped my ex about 9 years ago and she pulled up outside my back door and held the horn down, blocking the road for literally 30 minutes straight. I got in the shower and left via the front door and went to a friend's party. She could have been there for hours because she was still going when I left. Legend has it her spirit is still there honking. Once dated a girl, ended up sharing an apartment. After living together for a month I woke up to her staring at me absolutely livid. Naturally I asked her what the deal was. She said, "I had a dream that you were messing around with your ex, and I've been searching for reasons not to cut your dong off." I finally calmed her down and she left to work. I never collected my belongings so fast in my life. Never looked back. Man, you really dodged a bullet there. Met a girl at a party. We flirted. Then we ended up in my bedroom. This was in my apartment. Heavy makeout. I suggest hooking up. She declines. Heavier making out. basically including anything that's not intercourse. I suggest hooking up again. She declines. Fair enough. We stop the making out and plan to see each other again. The day we were supposed to meet, she stood me up. I had cooked and it was already time to meet. She told me that she doesn't want to see me again because I wasn't pushy enough. She liked men who were less soft and gentle. She basically told me that when she said no, I shouldn't have listened. Dodge a bullet there. My one and only Tinder date. Turned out she had signed her divorce papers that day. On the date she laid out her 1-year plan for us to date and get married. Let her know I wasn't interested in a second date. She thanked me for my opinion and declined not having a second date. Very luckily I hadn't been able to meet her at my house at the start of the date like she'd suggested and we had to meet someplace neutral. I don't like to think what would have happened if she'd known where I lived. Considering that I'm not attractive or rich or otherwise someone women are usually interested in, this was a very weird situation. It was just a hi, I don't know anything about you, but we're going to be married by the end of the year. No, your opinion isn't relevant. Keep in mind I'm only a junior in high school. I was about in 7th or 8th grade, and I was at a New Year's party at my grandparents' house with all of their friends. You can tell I'm a party animal, spending my New Year's with 60 and 70-year-olds, and one of their friends, who I'd known for a while, continued touching me and grabbing me in my waist and thigh region. She would sneak it in, like under the table or walking past each other or whatever. I totally understand the stereotypical grandma cheek pinch or whatever, but this was something else. After squeezing my butt with both hands, I had enough and said something to her. The rest of the night was super awkward, but the worst part was my grandma was defending her and downplaying the whole situation. It wasn't until I told my mom the next day and she lost her crap on my grandma that she finally admitted she was wrong, and I haven't seen her since. Gross and crappy that some of these stories are just straight up sexual assault. Had one where she would remove the condom halfway into intercourse. No problem. Till she is riding and wanting me to blow in her. Hot at first. I didn't. Find out a year later she was dating a friend of a friend and did it to him, and now he has a son. Another that was breaking the condoms on purpose. I suspect she was also poking holes in them. Cannot confirm that though. Bring your own dang condoms, guys. My roommate and I woke up one morning and went downstairs to find long dark hair all over the floor. It was almost a foot long and black. The front door was locked. I was single at the time and his girlfriend had short hair. Apparently some girl came in through the window, cut her hair and scattered it all over the floor and then left. Nothing was stolen and we never found out what it was all about. That's some the grudge crap, dude. Little after I turned 21 I was at the bar with some friends, shooting pool enjoying a beer. This group of rough looking 45+ women come in. They slowly make their way over to the same side of the bar. We keep minding our business having fun. I'm standing at the end of the table when I feel a hand slide down the back of my pants and boxes and grab my butt. Then she screeched out loud, "Boy, your mama raised you right." Then walks back to her friends all proud. The bartender kicked them out shortly after. My buddies were cool. They don't give me crap about it. We were all just like, WTF. I've never groped some random person like that. I'm sorry to all the women who get groped like that. It completely catches you off guard. It's meant to be a compliment, but just makes you feel used and revolting. It's not meant to be a compliment. It's just sexual assault, no matter what is between the legs of the perp and victim. Well, here goes. I'm in high school, and we're having pay. A girl that I hardly know asks me, "Hey, you wanna see my butt?" And I say, "UHH, no." She then proceeds to pull her whole pants down, right in front of 30 odd students and the pay teacher. Everyone was just like, WTF, and she just pulls them back up and walks away like nothing happened. That's like something a toddler would do. WTF. Someone I worked with sniffed the inside of my jacket that I forgot to bring with me. Later she gave me a date with her as a wedding gift only to be used before the wedding, and asked me if I was truly happy on my wedding day. I hooked up with a girl back in late 2009. I asked her over to try and call it off as she was a little intense for what I wanted back then. We end up hooking up again. I'm weak, I know. Fell asleep and woke up sometime in the middle of the night to her cutting my armpit hair off and trying to put it in a Ziploc. To this day I have no clue why or what she was planning to do with it, but I got shot of her that night once and for all. Older woman was cutting my hair. She was 60s. I was about 24. She rambled on about how she loves bearded men. And I might be old, but I can still look at the menu. She then told me about how she likes to go to clubs with her son in his 40s cause she's a woman and likes younger men. While this was happening, she kept running her hand down the front of my shirt. I later brought it up to other employees there, who just laughed it off and said, oh yeah, that's just her. Apparently sexual assault is just part of her personality. The compliments didn't bother me too much until she started getting handsy. Hope you left a review warning fellow bearded men because yikes. Woman I was engaged to was doing all the prep for the wedding. This was in her country and I didn't understand the language all that well, so I was a bit limited on how much I could help her out other than helping to cut the invite cards out, etc. She was a very hot-tempered person as she was, but as much as I asked her what tasks I could help out with, she just refused to involve me in anything at all, and then complained that I wasn't helping enough. She argued and argued with me about how I didn't care despite my efforts to be involved in all the prep. It was all very manipulative. Eventually she actually pulled a knife out at me. I slapped it off her wrist and she stormed off. When she left for work the next day, I packed my bags, took a taxi to the airport and noped out of there. Wearing my university sport jacket when I went to grab a fast food order, some woman I've never seen before shouted hi and waved at me like we were best friends. Gave an awkward confused wave back and left with my food. A couple hours later I get a friend request on Facebook from someone I recognized as her. Best guess is she saw my jacket and stalked the sport roster to find my name and added me from that. Got blocked real quick. That or on a first date she asked if you were going to kill me. How would you do it? I know how I would kill you. Then proceeded to tell me her plan on how she would kill me and get away with it. Asked me if I had feelings for her the day before her wedding, which I was in. Then after being married insisted that we talk and was trying to sit on my lap at a party when we were both drunk, and I told her it could wait until the morning. She revealed in the morning that she had cut herself after I wouldn't talk with her. I told her we couldn't be friends and she texted me every day for 6 months without me responding until I learned how to block her number. A mutual friend told me she asked for my number from him this last summer. I haven't spoken to her for 10 years. So there's that. When I was 17, eating a slice of pizza in a pizzeria in New York, I was sitting facing the glass looking out to the street. Time was around 7 p.m. It was getting dark. I'll never forget this 50-something-year-old lady who was walking on the sidewalk, saw me eating, slowed down, stared straight at me with the most seductive grin and then winked, then continued on walking. Until that point in my life I had never felt so many emotions at once. I was turned on, weirded out, intrigued, scared. This was a day I will never forget. She had black hair and was pretty hot. Back when I was working overnights at a national pharmacy chain, there was an older lady in her 50s that would pick up prescriptions and tried to hit on me a few times. The most direct and creepiest thing she said to me was, I don't know why women who go for younger men are called cougars. I like to be called a python because I like to answer young men. Do you like pythons? Luckily I was saved by a customer that promptly needed something picked up, and I ignored her until she left. Well, they are both predators, mom. A woman pinned me down on the beach on our first date all seductively, then once it was really quiet, she said unironically, I want to murder you. I had a GF once that was really possessive, to the point of stalker behavior. We had been dating for maybe 3 months and she didn't have a life. She never did anything and always wanted to spend time with me, and I was a fairly busy person. It gets to the point where she doesn't believe that I could have so much going on in my life that I can't video call her for at least an hour at the start and end of every single day. If I wasn't replying to her messages within 5 minutes, she'd send about 7 more, then call me a few times. Then it got that she looked at all my social profiles to see when I was last online to see whether I should have seen her text or not. Also within 2 weeks she had planned our wedding and named our 4 children, Max, Harrison, Lily and Sophia. Maybe not the worst, but here's something. I was in a really low mental state due to some past trauma, recent health issues when we started dating, which I think was part of the appeal for her, since looking back the whole thing was very predatory. Iffy age gap, 24M and 32F. She started talking shared finances just a month or so into the dating. It's pretty obvious what she was about in hindsight. Anyway, she encouraged me to start keeping a journal to help with my mental recovery, with a twist. For the journal, she would ask questions and I would write answers to them, which she would read. Most of it was extremely personal, a good amount also sensitive information. I, too, am boggled that I went along with this. She was also doing classic abuser things, trying to cut me off from my best friend and all. Fortunately, it only took a few months for me to start seeing clearly, though I wasn't quite committed to breaking up. She must have sensed some resistance though. One day she asked for my journal, set it aside, then proceeded to start the breakup talk. I agreed that it wasn't working out for me either, and overall it was very amicable, until I asked for my journal back. Literally instant screaming that it belonged to her. I just stayed seated and kept repeating that she hadn't written a thing in it and I was the one who originally purchased it. She tossed it at me after a bit and I bounced out of there like a bat out of heck. She did send me an apology about it over social media private messaging some years later. It was also while letting me know that she would be attending kink meetups in my city though, so an elderly woman pretty loudly told her middle-aged daughter she wanted to do me in a Trader Joe's. Went downtown to CVS to get my dad's medication at like 9 at night. While waiting for the cashier to come back, two old women in line made conversation with me. Unprompted, they started feeling on my shoulders and arms. Pulled the "I have a girlfriend" lie while trying to be nice so no trouble would happen. Inside, I was extremely creeped out, as if she had a sixth sense. The cashier appeared out of nowhere so I could pay and leave, giving the two women a glare in the meantime. They gave my biceps a squeeze before leaving me alone. Felt so dirty I took a shower after I got home. Was at work late upgrading PCs to Win 10. I am happily married and had only recently gotten married at that time. While I was in the contact center upgrading multiple PCs, I was kind of cornered by a younger woman who wound up saying, "If you ever need a release from your wife, I'm here and more than happy to, frick or something. I think you're super attractive," and kept it going for a few minutes. I mentioned that I'm happily married with no intentions of cheating and she kind of pushed for a while longer, lingered while I kept working, and then eventually left. It was probably the most awkward 20 minutes I have ever sat through at work. I had a waitress I worked with who got cheated on by her husband. Smart, attractive and funny woman. Her husband agreed with her that she deserved to frick me to get even with him, except they didn't regard the fact I was also married and not interested in ruining my relationship. I went on a date with a girl, and I thought it was mutually understood we weren't into each other because no real connection was happening on the date. It was hard to hold a conversation. I dropped her off at her house after the date, and she felt my chest before getting out of the car, like very weirdly feeling me up. Then she left. It was pretty uncomfortable. She was making sure you weren't wearing a wire. Played an MMO for a while where you could join 5 guilds. This lady was in 3 of them, was always nice, but very flirty with me. Our guilds use TeamSpeak a lot and the two of us got to talking. Turns out though we lived a few hundred miles and an international border away, we shared a crap ton of interests. She claimed to be in her 20s. I was over 30 at the time. We became friends, though she made it very clear to everyone that she wanted more. In fact, she referred to me as her nickname I went by in that game. I found out she was going to be traveling to an area near me right around her birthday, so I offered to meet her in a public setting. That's when she dropped it on me. She wasn't really in her 20s. She was turning 16. Technically, over the age of consent but, yes, still a kid. Even if there weren't legal issues, I simply was not interested in dating anyone that young. I have a 5-year rule. I only date people that are within 5 years of me, so I had a long talk with her. Explained I was dang near twice her age, and while her interest in me was flattering, I wasn't interested. She was devastated, crying, telling me I was making a mistake because she would be the best girlfriend future wife possible. That age was just a number. Finally, I told her that in 2 years when she turned 18 and brought proof of that, I would consider going on a single date with her if she was really that serious and that if all went well I would consider making an exception to my 5-year rule. But under absolutely no circumstances would I ever date or even meet with someone that was under 18. She wasn't happy, but eventually accepted that was the best she would get, and we stayed in touch even after I left the game. Fast forward almost but not quite 2 years. She has finally found a boyfriend. She hits me up on TeamSpeak. She wants me to travel up there to meet them because in her words she wants me to know exactly what the heck I missed out on by unfairly and unreasonably turning her down. Age is just a number and shouldn't have gotten in the way. She has since become more normal, but yeah, those 2 incidents really creeped me out. No, I have never dated her. I had dated other women I had met in games before then. Never have since. Was standing at the bar talking with my friend when I felt something lightly touch the back of my shirt. I turned around and found this woman smelling my armpit. While I was at a rave, I had this girl walk up to me like the living dead while I was in conversation with a bunch of people. This jaw swinger stops dead in front of me, says what's that, and proceeded to grab me by the banger and beans with all the strength a methed up 20-year-old can muster. I told her to get her fricking hands off my junk, and she skittled away like Golem being separated from his precious. About 10 minutes later, a friend taps me on the shoulder, points behind me looking concerned, and tells me to look. There are 3 cops with a K9 and a crying crazy bee claiming I tried to RP her. They were ready to fricking destroy me without so much as a hint of proof. If I wasn't with so many people all night, most of which were young ladies there to back my story up, well, I am pretty sure that nutbag could have ruined my life very easily. You have been visited by the Wealth Rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.